All right, we're going to bring up our next speaker, Mr. Josh Kokar. So Josh is the wealth advisor and founder of Providence Wealth Management. So there's reading off the slide. I've known Josh for 2.5-ish years. We had a mutual friend that we didn't know that we had. And so one of my wife's running partner kept telling her, hey, you need to talk to my finance guy. He's made me just more money than I know what to do with. And we're like, Christy's like, okay, we got to talk to him. And I'm like, who is this guy? Does he know who God is? Like, who is this guy? I don't know. I don't know, right? And so Karen is a very worldly person. And so we end up on a Zoom, right? And we're kind of feeling each other out. And somehow we start talking about church. I'm like, where do you go? And like, Awaken. I'm like, oh, okay, you're good. We'll keep talking to you. So we do a little bit of work with Josh, but I've seen Josh talk now a handful of times at Pathfinders. Who's been through Pathfinders? Am I the only one? David has. Josh has. All right, so they bring Josh in to talk about finance. All right, so whether this be about wealth management, whether this be about how to start and then continue to generate wealth. So we were fortunate enough to get Josh to agree. He's also a veteran, which is even better. Former Army guys. Where's all my Army people? Let's go, Army. We'll take over San Diego. You can raise your hand. It's okay. All right. So I'm going to bring up Josh. He's going to share with us some pretty amazing stuff. And if you guys have questions, raise your hand. He'll either throw something at you or call on you. But here he is, Josh.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. How are you guys doing? Doing well. That was really great, Ryan. I came here to share, but that was amazing. Talking about identity, something I struggled with a long time. And being in the house of God here at Awaken, God really shaped my identity and really began to speak to me about what that is. That's not what I'm talking about today, but thank you for that reminder. So my name is Joshua Kokar. My wife and I, we've been part of Awaken for almost 9 years. This is when right around the time my older daughter was born. I have two daughters, two kids, or two little humans, like Ryan would say. And it's amazing to see them grow up in the house of God. My daughter was praying the other day, and I'm watching her pray with such authority and the vocabulary that she's using. I'm like, man, I didn't pray like that in my 30s. And here she is boldly proclaiming all the authority that God's given her. So it's amazing, and I'm glad you guys are here. Professionally, I've been in banking and finance now for 18 years. And it was one of the first things I did out of college. I joined JP Morgan Chase. I got a great start. And then over time, I developed my career. And 5 years ago, after Pathfinders, actually, I launched my own practice. And God's just been so good and so faithful. And I've just learned to grow in that. But I didn't always start financially set, financially free. I made a lot of mistakes, poor choices. As soon as I came back I was deployed in Iraq for a year. As soon as I came back, I had $50,000, didn't know what to do with it. I tithed, I gave some money to my parents, and I kind of blew 30 to 40 grand within a year. I bought a nice car. I was just blowing it. And, I learned a lot in that season, which is money needs a purpose. It needs a home. And if I don't have clear goals, it's just going to be wasted. It's going to be blown away. So fast forward, I come back, I graduate, I get a job at JP Morgan. And that's when I was in banking at the time, and I worked with a financial advisor who helped me learn how to steward well. He wasn't a Christian guy, but he understood the principles of financial stewardship. So before we can talk about financial freedom, and Ryan, you talked about this, which is, what do you have in your hand today? Are you a good steward with what God's given you? And the Word of God says if you are given 5 talents, 2 talents, 1 talent, when God comes to check, if you're faithful with 1, you get an extra. If you're faithful with 5, you get 5 more. But if you're not faithful with it, even what you have is taken away. So that's a scary verse in the Bible, which is, I need to be a good steward of what God's put in my hand. A lot of times we ask for, God, I want a bigger contract. I want more money. I want a bigger home. Help me close that contract. But what are we doing with what's in our hand today? So I'll share about my journey, my life, my story, and I'll tie that into financial, what it means to be financially free. Good? All right. We can move on to the next slide. So before I begin, I always like to show this illustration. And what this is it's how I want you to start to think about wealth creation. This tree didn't just pop up one day. It was grown over time, right? So a lot of times when you think about a house, a tower, the taller the tower, the deeper the roots, right? So the stronger the tree, the stronger the roots. The stronger the roots, the stronger the tree. So I want you to start to think about wealth and income and how do we gain riches like a tree. A lot of times when we see successful people, we see their homes, their cars, the vacations that they take, but we don't see how they got there. We don't see the mindset that they had to develop. We don't see what they had to say no to say yes to something else. We don't see how many times they sought financial advice and followed through with it. We don't see how they track their spending. And I can tell you this, the wealthier people, they track their spending just as much as anybody else. Just because they have more doesn't mean they turn it off and say, well, I'll just swipe my credit card. They're very mindful of their spending. And I can tell you this, even people in the 10 million range, they have $10 million, they still track their spending. And it's interesting that a lot of times when I do financial planning and I'll ask people, how much do you spend a month? They have no idea. And so we want to start to have these good habits if we want to have a strong mindset. We want to have and develop and grow wealth over time. And this is scriptural, right? The Word of God says, if you try to build your house on shaky ground or on sand, when the storm comes, when the wind blows, it's going to keel over, right? So same thing here. If I don't have the right mindset, if I don't have the right habits, if I don't have the right systems in place, having more money isn't going to solve my problems. Good? And all right, so I'll share with you a little bit about the 5 levels of financial planning, and I'll share my story. And what I want you to think about as I'm talking about this is I want you to be honest with yourself and see where your life is at. And then just say, if I'm at level 1 or 2 or whatever, what do I need to do today? Or what are some systems I need to put in place to level up? And so the goal here is, how do we reach financial freedom? Financial freedom doesn't happen by happenstance. It's very intentional. And again, financial freedom means different things to different people, but at the crux of it, it just means I don't have to work. I can choose to work. I can work as an option, but we don't just get there. We don't arrive there. We plan for those things. So if we go to level 1, level 1 is really the foundation. This is where everybody starts, or this is where people will start at some point. So think about your career in the military. As soon as that's done, your income stops. Now you have to look for a job, find a job. The way this showed up for me is after I graduated, I got a job at JP Morgan. I had a paycheck. That paycheck helped me cover my expenses. Now, I wish I could tell you I just immediately started following these steps and built an emergency fund. It took me some time. I had a very good financial planner I teamed up with, and he would help me figure these things out. He was a few decades older than me. And he said, hey, now that you're starting out, what are you doing? JP Morgan offers a 401k. Are you at least matching? They're matching up to 5%. Are you at least contributing that? Are you putting some money away for a rainy day fund? Are you putting money away so you can invest later? So it was habits like that he started to share with me that I wanted to put into effect. So I moved out of my parents' basement and I got my own studio apartment, and it was very small, but it helped me get self-sufficient. I had bills, so every month I would do a little inventory. I would do budgeting and just say, what are my bills? And this is foundational here, is we want to know how much we're spending. A lot of times we're too desensitized. We'll swipe our card or Face ID, and the money's gone. We're not tracking how much we're spending. And I can't tell you how great this is for the banks. The banks love this stuff, that you're completely desensitized and money's just flowing like water, and you're just swiping and Face IDing, and the money is just further and further away from you. When you start to track it, you start to see where the money leak is. Where are you bleeding money? Where are you spending money? Where is the excess? And you can begin to tighten that. So level 1, Foundational, let's start tracking. There are a lot of apps that you can use, budgeting apps. Monarch is a very popular one. Mint has one. You can even use Excel spreadsheets. You can track it however you want. But at the end of the month, I want you to start to think about, what are my expenses? What's my number? This is my rent, utilities, mortgage, whatever your number is, try to live within that number. There are a lot of rules that people can, throw 70-30, 80-20. I tell people to at least start with 80-20. Can I live within 80% of what I make? This is obviously after tithing, but can I live in the 80%? Can I put 20% away? Can I intentionally invest 10%, save 10%? So the 80-20 rule is really a great place to start. And if you're saying, well, that might be difficult, we live in San Diego, inflation's high, start with putting something away, even if it's $100 a month, $100 a week, whatever you can do. Start developing habits that you can intentionally put away. The easiest way to do that, every bank has savings accounts. You can auto save, where the minute the paycheck hits your account, you can auto save it directly into your savings account. And what you're doing is you're developing good habits. If someone's trying to get back into fitness, you start with one thing. You're stopping sugar, you're waking up sooner, you're hitting the gym first thing in the morning. Take one habit that you can develop and start to work towards that. Insurance basics, this is just saying, do we have adequate car insurance, home insurance, renter's insurance, homeowner's insurance, whatever it is. But having that's gonna stop the unnecessary expenses that come your way. So there's a scary statistic which says that 67% of Americans, unfortunately, cannot withstand a $1,000 emergency. And that might be somebody here today. So we want to stop the bleed. We want to make sure that we have an emergency fund. We want to make sure we're adequately insured so that a surprise like that doesn't impact us or impede us. I can't talk more about this. I can't stop talking about high interest rate debt. This is everywhere now. Auto loans, buy now, pay later. It's incredible how much people are putting on their credit cards, sometimes 20, 30% interest rate debt. This is your money working backwards. If you're in a high debt, credit card, student loan, whatever it is, we need to, as soon as we get the emergency fund, we need to take care of that problem. Because if you're dealing with high interest rate debt, if you're still used to paying 20, 30% in interest rate, you're not going to move forward. This is your money working backwards. It's going to keep you stuck in this cycle. So what are some things that we can do here to move forward? Number one, we need to know what's our survival number. What a survival number is, bare bones, what is the minimum that I need every single month? I want you guys to know that number and then work around that number. So that's my number. Is it 80%? Great. Can I start to put away 10, 15, 20%? Can I build an emergency fund? An emergency fund is 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. And that can be daunting sometimes, but can I start with $1,000? Can I put away a couple $100 and get to $1,000? Can that be my marker? And eventually start moving up to, can I get to a month's worth of savings, expenses, 2 months worth of expenses, 3 months worth of expenses. So that would be the goal if you're at level 1, is how do I advance from here? As soon as you get there, now next thing we want to start to do is tackle the interest rates. There's a lot of debt calculators online. Calculator.com has a phenomenal calculator where you can plug in how much you owe, what the interest rate is, what your monthly payments are. And it'll actually calculate for you what's the best, most optimal way to pay down your debt. So it'll actually give you a program, and it's free. It'll give you a program and it'll say start paying, well, pay the minimum first, and then start paying credit card X and student loan Y. And it'll give you exact numbers to pay so you're more efficient. Automate your savings. Like I said, if you can put away $100 a month, $100 a week, $1,000 a month, whatever your number is, start to do that automatically. You're starting to set up good habits. And finally, we want to make sure that we are protected. So like I said, whether it's homeowners, renters, car, health, disability, find ways to ensure that if something happens, God forbid, that you are protected. So once we've achieved that, once we've taken care of that, we can move on to the next level. Level 2 is stability. This is when you've set aside some savings, you're feeling good, you're making more money. The goal here, and the way this showed up for me, is a couple of years later, 2 to 3 years later, I got a promotion, I was making more money. That's great. I had good habits in place, I was able to save more money. The point here is, just because you're making more money, we don't want to adjust our expenses to our savings, to our income. We want to make sure that the excess that we have is put away, whether it's savings, whether it's investments. And a lot of times the way people get stuck here is, as they start to make more money, their expenses start to go up. So if you're making 100,000, your expenses are 100,000, you're still at zero. If you're making 50 and you're spending 50, you're not putting anything aside, you're stuck at the same level. So this level 2 is, as my income grows, can I keep my expenses the same, or can I actually work to even eliminate some of those debt and bring my expenses lower? This is going to help grow your net worth over time. And as your net worth grows, you have a lot more flexibility. The more flexibility you have, the more you can invest, the more you can set aside for the future. So level 2, great level to be at, because now you can really start putting things in place to help you get to the next level. So level 2, here's a checklist. Can I get to saving 20% a month? And some of you might feel like, okay, I can, if I work it out, if I have a good spending plan, I can get to saving 20% a month. Great. Now, beyond the 20%, can I start to invest some of that money? Whether it's the stock market, whether it's real estate, whether it's business interests, it could be a side hustle that you want to invest in yourself. Can I now start to put some money away? And then again, eliminating high interest rate debt. This is a phase where we don't want debt. And I'm not talking about good, like a mortgage or something like that. I mean credit card debt, student loans, things like that. And then increase your savings as your income increases. So as your income goes up, let's say you have a side job, great. All the income from there, can I put that away? Can I sock that away? There's a lot of people, what they do is, it's called marry the payment, which is, if I have a car note, $400 a month, $500 a month, even if that gets paid off, great. I take that $400 and I just put it in a savings account. So I've married the payment. I've just found another home for it. So there's ideas like that where, as soon as your debt's done, let's say you've paid off your car note, paid off your student loan, but you're used to paying a certain amount a month, great. Start to put that towards savings and eventually investments. So a good checklist here is, do I have the right habits in place? And if I don't, I can't move forward. I'm back to level 1, or I'm stuck at level 2. So we need to have great habits here. Am I surprised by things that pop up? At this level, you shouldn't be, if you have some savings in place. If I have good savings, I'm not surprised by needing to change my transmission. I'm okay, I can cover that and not be stuck, not move on. And then I'll share about the next 2 levels. We can go to level 3. This is when, as you're starting to gain more income, as your income grows, your business grows. Now my goal is, can I now start to fund multiple income streams? And when you see wealthy people, it's rental incomes, business income. It's several things that they have that they're relying on, and not just Social Security income. So this is a great area here. This is a great space to be in. And a majority of our lives are going to be spent at level 3, which is, can I continue to grow my net worth? Beyond that, I want to eliminate my debt. I want to start having some investment strategies that are going to work for me, and I want to start to develop income streams. And so so this is the phase my wife and I are currently at, which is, we have good habits. We're putting money away. We're starting to build multiple income streams, because as that happens in the next couple of years, we're able to be financially free. And so again, this doesn't happen overnight. This is happening with intentionality. Can I start somewhere? Can I, even if I'm at level 1, can I start to build? Can I start to grow? Can I develop those good habits so that I can get to level 3 and beyond that, level 4, which is financial freedom. And again, unfortunately, a lot of people go through their life and they never get here, right? And I believe God's called us to live a life of freedom, and part of that freedom is financial freedom, right? I don't want to be, Warren Buffett said, if you don't find a way for your money to work while you're sleeping, you're going to work forever. So the way this shows up, and how many of you are business owners here? Cash flow is king, right? When you're a business owner, you need the cash flow. Same thing in financial freedom, is the cash flow is going to be working for you. Do I have the right systems in place? Do I have rental incomes? Do I have a business that can run itself without me? Can I remove myself from the business and the business continues to work and fund my lifestyle? So again, this, unfortunately, like I said, a lot of people, especially today, don't feel they can retire, don't feel they have the flexibility or the freedom because they haven't put a lot of these things in place. So if you're trying to get to level 4, we need to master level 1, level 2, really be intentional in level 3. How can I start planning better for my taxes? Can I do some tax planning? Can I make sure I'm intentional in seeking financial advice? Do I have the right habits in place to then eventually get to financial freedom? And again, beyond that is level 5, which is abundance. And this is really God's signature for us, right? Is living beyond ourselves, right? This is generational wealth. This is, I'm thinking about my children, my grandchildren. I'm giving back. I have more money than I need. And now I can be really, truly living how God's designed me to live. So I just wanted to share that with you on how we get to these levels. And then if you want to go to the next slide, I want you to start thinking today, like what level am I at today? Be honest with yourself. And beyond that, how can I get to the next level? Am I doing do I have the right habits in place? Do I have the right mindset? And again, we're part of a church that has a lot of resources, right? There's a lot of people with good fruit on their life. And like Ryan said, talk to them. Hey, what are you doing that's working for you? I had a financial advisor help me with that. Hey, Josh, what are you doing? Why are you not putting money away? Do you really need that car? Right? So what are you saying no to today so you can say yes to something else tomorrow? So, and then the next slide, this is really at the crux of it, and I can't stop talking enough about cash flow, is because nobody knows what their numbers are. So we want to be dialed in. We want to know, what am I spending money on? Does it even make sense? Do I even get enjoyment? Do I get pleasure? Does this make sense? Does it make good financial sense? Do I have a system to budget? Anybody here have an app that they track their budget? Good man, David. Right? And if I'm being honest, a lot of times people are just like, I don't know. I make X and I don't know what I have left at the end of the month. We need to be on top of that. Right? And again, now there's apps that track that. And so you can link your credit card, checking account, and it just updates every month for you, and it gives you a report. And it says, this is where you're spending money on. And you'll be surprised how many people will not realize how much money they're spending on Starbucks or restaurants or DoorDash. And could that be eliminated? And so knowing your numbers, do I have an emergency fund? Again, foundational. Do I have money socked away in the event something were to happen? I'm not thrown off. All right. And then can I put something aside every week, every month? Can I be intentional of putting money away? And you'll start to see, as these habits develop, you'll start to have more, you'll start to feel better. And as you start to feel better, you'll start to make better financial decisions. Next slide, please. And I'll touch on this. This is the investment. It's also called the risk pyramid. It's also tied to time horizon. And here's what I mean by that. Is a lot of times when we look at when we do financial planning for people, we'll look at their statements and everything will be in one either a savings account or an investment account. And what I want you to start to do is start to think about your money, compartmentalize your money in different buckets, so to speak, right? So there is the now bucket. What do I need now? What do I need for the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, right? That money is going to sit in my checking and savings account. It's not in Bitcoin. What do I need soon, right? Soon could be a year to two. Do I need a down payment? Do I need to fund a business or something like that? And so that money could be in some treasury bills, CDs. So think about your time horizon as what's a safer asset, what's stable. And then think of the later bucket as anything beyond 5 to 10 years. And that is more growth oriented. So stock market, cryptocurrencies, whatever alternatives. So start to think about your money along with time horizons. So what is my risk tolerance? Great, but does it tie with does it link up with my time horizon? And as you start to compartmentalize your money, you'll start to see the investments start to make sense. So I don't have to guess, what do I do with this pile of money? I just know it's going to be my soon pile. I can't be aggressive with it, but I can also put it in my savings account. Vice versa for long term. If I have a 10-year time horizon, maybe I don't buy a CD. Maybe I can do something that's more growth oriented. So this is a great way to start thinking about your money as well, compartmentalize. And if you don't have that today, maybe write down what is in my soon bucket, what's in my now bucket, what do I have for my later bucket. And as you're budgeting, as your income comes in, start to find a home for that money. This is for my bills. 80% of the money is for my bills. That's in my now bucket, soon bucket. This is for retirement. This is for college. This is for a future business venture. That's for my soon or later bucket. And as you start to do that, it'll start to make more sense to you on how to invest and where to invest. And lastly, just allocating as your life changes. And we see this all the time, which is, we'll ask clients, when are you retiring? When do you plan to retire? 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But when you look at their investment strategy, it doesn't reflect that, right? So I have two daughters, one's 5, one's 9. They both have different investment time horizons, right, for college or for whatever. So they can't have the same investment strategy. So does your allocation match the stage of life you're in? In 2009, a lot of people who thought they were going to retire couldn't because of the global financial crisis, because all their money was tied into one stock or two stocks or the stock market. And they saw their retirements get slashed in half. Now, if they were allocating appropriately, they didn't have to wait for another 5 years to retire. So start thinking about your money in that way, which is, when do I need it? How soon do I need it? And if I do, am I allocating it correctly? And I'll end with this, and I'll open it up for some Q&A, which is, what are some practical things I can do today? Right? This is a lot of information, but what are some things that I can do today? And number one is, find out what your number is. How much do I need every month? What can I comfortably put away? Review your investment accounts. Like I said, are you in the right bucket? Do you have the right allocation depending on your time? Update your beneficiaries. I can't tell you how many times there'll be accounts that have no beneficiaries on. And then, God forbid, something happens, you have your spouse or your children saying, well, my parents had money, my wife had money, my husband had money. There's no beneficiaries on there. Build an emergency fund. That should be the first thing that we do if we don't have one. And find one thing in your statements that you're like, I could probably get rid of that. And I would say every 30, 60, 90 days, find one thing on your statement, on your credit card, on your bills that you're like, I could probably get rid of this, whether it's Netflix, whatever it is, whether it's Starbucks. One habit that you're constantly, that's just draining and bleeding you out, find it and eliminate it. With that, I'll open it up for do we have 5 minutes for questions? 5 to 10 minutes for questions, if you guys have any. Yes, sir.
During your stage 1 and 2,
Yep.
what do you remember was your hardest but effective step that you did?
Yeah, so for me, stage 1 was just developing good habits, because I didn't grow up with having good money habits. We didn't have money growing up, so the minute I had it, it was gone. So the hardest thing for me, honestly, was being intentional and saying, oh, I'm just going to put this in a savings and just walk away. That was very hard for me. And today it's easy. It's a muscle. The more you practice, the more you do, the easier it is. I think, and to tie that was the most effective because it helped me get an early start. I was able to buy a house very early in 2010. I was able to buy a house because I had good habits. And again, if my financial plan I worked with didn't help me with that, I probably wouldn't have been in this spot. So developing your habits is, for me, was the hardest, but then also the most effective because it helped me get an early start. Yes.
How did you build your first emergency?
Yeah. So it was, I kid you not, it was $100 every week. And before you know it, and at the time, $100 a week seemed like a lot of money to me at the time. And I was like, man, this is difficult. I'm watching my money just leave. I could spend it. I could do something nice with that. And so that's how I got there. And I got to the first $1,000, and that was a big deal. So the minute my savings hit $1,000, I was like, wow. It was instant. It was quick, and that gave me the momentum to say I could do more. And so you can also increase that. And as you start to do it, you'll start to feel better. You're like, okay, I can absolutely do that. I can put away $100 a week, $100 a month, every other bi-weekly. Every time you get paid, move $100 out, auto save into your savings account. And it was actually an account. It was an online savings account, which is very popular now. It wasn't in 2009. So it was a Capital One online account. And I was like, I can't walk into a Capital One. So it was online. It would be a 2 to 3 day transition to move. So I was just online saving it. And before you know it, I hit 1,000. And I was able to get the momentum to save more. So great question. Yeah. Yes.
A little more specific, it's pretty much in line.
Yeah.
It's all laying off my table. So I have multiple irons in the fire between the VA disability, Veterans Village of San Diego to account for housing for 6 to 9 months as I've been an independent arborist for the last 3 years. And while growing my assets, my tools, my equipment, my skills,
Yep.
I've also been bleeding to where I haven't been able to separate. So been living incredibly frugally. I work or I work. So establishing the emergency fund while also saving for equipment when my income is inconsistent.
Yeah.
This may not be too helpful for anyone in this, but anyone that just started their own business. Another Lord has dealt with me quite fairly in learning to trust him as a provider, but not touching that savings as soon as something comes up, or not allowing any form of complacency as it is established. Because once those means come through in 6 months to a year, I'm immediately going to be at step 3, where
Okay.
I'm about to have an RV, already have a location plan, already have all these things
Okay.
in order.
Yeah.
But I don't want to. It's an interesting position to be in because all these things are going to work out in the end.
Right.
Between now and then, I'm frugal and skipping meals.
Okay.
To make things work.
That's great.
Pay the gas, continue to generate the wealth, or continue to generate the income, as well as to accumulate the assets necessary to perform the business and increase the value that I can bring my clients. So, what words of wisdom would you give someone in my situation where my income could be $300 per month, or I have also made $4,000 in a week?
Yeah, and that's exactly it, right? Because your income is not consistent, the need for having an emergency fund is even greater versus somebody that has a very consistent paycheck. it's hard to know in that situation. As a business owner, you have to make tough calls, right? So do I dip into my savings for this business need, which I'll eventually replenish, which I hope you do, right? Or do I, but here's the other thing. If you didn't have the emergency savings, I feel like you'll be creative enough and you'll find a way to do that. And I think as a business owner, when you're in that spot, your creativity comes out. I've been in that place where I'm like, I know I can get to this, but what else can I do? You know what I'm saying? So I would say just that's a hard call, because yes, that's the point of having savings, is to be able to get to it. But at the same time, think about your business as its own entity and your savings as your rainy day fund, if that makes sense.
It does, getting to that point where I separate.
You have to separate it, exactly. And I teach that in PFA, which is you have to separate yourself from the business entity, because the business entity has to pay you. A lot of time business owners are just pouring into the business 24/7, all their time, effort, money, and they never collect a paycheck. And you have to separate the two and say, I need to pay myself first. As a business owner, I need to get paid first. And when you make that a priority, you'll be surprised how much you're like, okay, this is a priority for me. My W-2 is a priority. And then the business will start to figure itself out. So if you prioritize that as a cash flow item, where you're like, I have to pay myself, the business will find a way to for the equipment or for whatever it is, you'll find a way to do that. But again, that's a tough call. So, absolutely, yes.
When you were talking about others tracking expenses,
Mhm.
do you have any recommendations on
I've used two. Monarch is a very easy app. It is a paid app. They have a free version too. I think it's like $10 a month. I've used Mint. Mint is pretty good. That's through Intuit. Monarch, and then my business partner really likes Tiller HQ. So Tiller is, I think, $5 a month. And so all of them have APIs, so it gets linked to your checking account, credit card, and then you get a nice app, and you click on your app, and it'll show you how you're spending, and it'll categorize it for you too. So it'll say, mortgage or coffee or food, utilities, and it's checking, savings, credit cards, and I can't recommend enough on how you need a system. All right, last question. Anybody else? No? I think we're good. All right.
All right. Well, who feels convicted? I do. Yeah, Josh, I think the biggest takeaway that I say every time you talk about this is actually download the app and actually link your accounts to it, because it's always good to know where you're at, right? If everybody here had to get in their car and drive to get to New York City, right? We could all hop on the 8 East. We can start going east, but at some point that's going to change, right? And so we can figure it out, and it could take a month or two to get there, or we could pull up Google Maps, an app, and be like, oh, let's hop on the 10 East, and let's take that all the way across, right? So knowing where you're at,